Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
Hi, this is Queensborough President Melinda Katz, and I would like to invite you to come see the world's borough. Our borough has 2.3 million residents and hosts over 130 different languages. Visit one of our cultural institutions, taste foods from across the globe at a local restaurant, take a ride on our subway lines, explore our beaches or our 16,000 acres of parkland. To learn more, join our mailing list at info@queensbp.org or like us on Facebook at facebook.com/QueensBPCats.
This is New York City Controller Scott Stringer. It's my job to safeguard New York's fiscal health, to root out waste, fraud, and abuse in the city budget, and make sure all agencies work efficiently to serve your needs. The City Controller's Office is working hard to ensure that your tax dollars are being spent on programs that create good-paying jobs and help all New Yorkers climb the economic ladder. As City Controller, one of my most important responsibilities is to manage New York City's 5 pension funds, which are valued at more than $160 billion in assets. Public pensions safeguard retirement security for over 700,000 active and retired civil servants. My goal as Controller is to make sure every New Yorker has an equal opportunity to succeed. Achieving economic justice in New York City is not a choice or an option. It's a responsibility. And my team and I look forward to working with you to make that promise a reality.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
¿Trabaja en la ciudad de Nueva York? ¿Tienen empleados en la ciudad de Nueva York? Soy Julie Menon, la comisionada del Departamento de Asuntos del Consumidor.
Queremos informarles sobre la nueva ley de ausencia laboral debido a enfermedad. Esta ley le exige a la mayoría de los empresarios que les concedan a sus trabajadores permiso laboral por motivos de enfermedad, para cuidar de sí mismos o de algún familiar. Llame al 311 o visite nyc.gov y busque Paid Sick Leave para saber si usted está amparado por esta ley.
This is Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer. In February, taxpayers receive their W-2 forms from employers and can start to file their taxes. Did you know that many families qualify for the federal Earned Income Tax Credit and don't do the paperwork to apply? If you qualify, the credits could be worth up to $8,000. Find out if you qualify by visiting manhattanbp.nyc.gov/tax credits.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
Did you know that New York City has a store? Well, it does. It's the City Store, the official store for the City of New York, where you can find everything from gifts and collectibles to municipal publications like the Green Book, and including a diverse collection of books about New York. So come to the City Store, located in the North Plaza of the Municipal Building. For more information, dial 311 or visit www.nyc.gov.
Hi, I'm Victor Calisi, Commissioner of the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. Are you a tenant with a disability? Do you receive federal assistance such as SSI or SSDI? If you live in a rent-regulated apartment and earn $50,000 a year or less, you may be able to freeze your rent. Contact 311 or visit nyc.gov/rent-freeze to learn more about the New York City Rent Freeze program.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
Do you work in New York City? Do you employ anyone in New York City? I'm Julie Menon, the Commissioner of the Department of Consumer Affairs, and we want you to learn about the city's new paid sick leave law, which requires most employers to allow sick leave so employees can care for themselves or a family member. Call 311 or visit nyc.gov and search paid sick leave to find out if the law applies to you. Together, we can keep businesses strong and keep New Yorkers healthy.
Hi, I'm Maria Torres Springer, the Commissioner of the Department of Small Business Services. If you're thinking about starting, operating, or growing a business, we can help. New York City Business Solutions offers free services, including business courses, pro bono legal assistance, help getting financing, and much more. We can also save your business time and money by helping you train and hire the best people. For more information, call 311 and ask for NYC Business Solutions. Visit us online at www.nyc.gov/SBS or follow us on Twitter at NYCBUS Solutions.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
The city's Comptroller Bureau of Law and Adjustment settles and addresses claims filed for and against the city. 30,000 claims are filed every year, and we are working hard every day to process these claims in the fastest way possible. Did you know you can file a claim online? Just visit controller.nyc.gov and click on Forms and RFPs. There you can also find helpful information and step-by-step instructions on how to file electronically or manually. If you've received notice that your case has been settled, please allow 90 days from the date the city receives your closing papers for payments to be processed and sent.
Hello, I'm Parks Commissioner Mitchell Silver. New York City Parks is fostering equity in our parks by creating thriving public spaces for all New Yorkers. The Community Parks Initiative is bringing that work to neighborhoods that need it most by investing more city resources, including funds, staff, recreational programming, and partnership building in 55 historically under-resourced communities. The Community Parks Initiative will engage New Yorkers in rebuilding their parks, including 35 playgrounds in the project's first phase. Our goal will create new reasons to get out and get fit, and to connect more of us to green spaces in our neighborhoods. For more information on the Community Parks Initiative, upcoming public meetings, and to find out how you can get involved, visit the New York City Parks website at nyc.gov/parks or call 311.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
Soy Julie Menon, comisionada del Departamento de Asuntos del Consumidor, preguntándole qué haría con su reembolso de impuestos.
Si usted gana menos de $60,000, la ciudad de Nueva York podría ayudarle a presentar su declaración de impuestos de forma gratuita y segura. Usted podrá reclamar créditos tributarios por ingreso de trabajo o por cuidado de menores, lo que podría resultar en hasta $10,000. Visite nyc.gov o llame al 311 y pida ayuda para preparar impuestos.
Hi, I'm Jacques Chiha, Commissioner of the Department of Finance. Are you 62 or older? If you live in a rent-regulated apartment and earn $50,000 a year or less, you may be able to freeze your rent. Contact 311 or visit nyc.gov/rentfreeze. Relais 311 pour joindre plus d'informations sur le programme municipal de Ville New York qui empêche prix loyer ou augmenter.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
Hi, I'm Bill Chong, Commissioner of the Department of Youth and Community Development. Certain New Yorkers who came to the U.S. as children may receive protection from immigration legal action and become eligible for work authorization under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA. TYCD is partnering with community-based organizations to provide free immigrant legal services and adult education classes. For more information, call 311 or visit nyc.gov/DYCD.
Hi, I'm Maria Torres Springer, the Commissioner of the Department of Small Business Services. If you're looking for a job, want to change careers, or need job training, we can help. Our Workforce One career centers located in all 5 boroughs provide free services for job seekers. Our centers can provide you with career advice, help you with your job search, place you in a job, and of course, offer job training. For more information, call 311 and ask for Workforce One. Visit us online at www.nyc.gov/workforce1 or follow us on Twitter at NYC Workforce One.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
Trees count. Can we count on you? Hello, I'm Parks Commissioner Mitchell Silver. Trees Count 2015 is recruiting.
In 2009, they didn't get their promotion together. There you go. It expired. Look at Renewal.
Someone tell me on this.
Good afternoon. My name is Joshua Harding, and I'm a senior. 4 years ago, this school was a nightmare. Gang activities outweighed learning. The hallways were not safe, and it was difficult to get to class. Today, as a senior, Automotive is a completely different school. Many students, along with myself, did not want to come to school, but with the support and motivation from Principal Lafagola, administration, and staff, we were encouraged and supported to attend school. Principal Lafagola made some changes that improved the environment both inside and outside of the school building. We have after-school programs like football, boxing, cooking, robotics, and other activities, as well as Saturday school to give us support where we need it. Principal Lafagola also brought in a very special counseling program through counseling in schools called Rites of Passage. Through Rites of Passage, a select group of students and I connected with male mentors who supported us academically as well as with issues we face as young men of color. I was on the road to failure. I did not see myself where I am now a few years ago. Going back as far as junior high school, I had negative interactions with school personnel. When I got to Automotive, a dean took me in as if I was his own. I never had a group of school administrators that cared for me. The administrative and youth development team at Automotive showed me that the support system is not only at home, but can also be found in a school as well. One of the reasons Automotive is so different today than it was 4 years ago is that the focus shifted from adults just doing their jobs and leaving to the teachers supporting students to reach their goals and their fullest potential. I'm hoping the positive changes at Automotive will continue next year when I am at Virginia Union studying biology. Speaking on behalf of my Automotive family and the Harding family, we thank the Department of Education for bringing Principal Lafagola to our school. Her efforts are greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Well, Joshua, I commend you. First of all, it's not easy to stand in front of all the TV cameras and talk about what you've experienced, but you did it very well and very powerfully. And I want you to know how proud I am and everyone is here of your achievements and the way you moved yourself forward. And it is part of a bigger effort and a bigger change we're making. But you're a great example to your fellow students of what that kind of initiative and focus can mean for turning your life around. I am thrilled to be here at Automotive. This is a school where a lot of positive change is happening. It is one of our 94 renewal schools, part of our $150 million initiative to make these schools strong again. Joshua represents everything that we believe in, a young man of great promise who is being given an opportunity to fulfill his potential. We believe in helping individual students realize their potential. We believe in helping schools realize their potential. In both cases, you have to care and you have to invest. And Joshua's a great example of what happens when that caring and that investment is there. I'm going to add to Joshua's story that he struggled, as he indicated. He struggled with lack of support and lack of hope. Even as late as 9th grade, was nicknamed Trouble because he was in trouble. Had suspensions, had involvement with gangs, and it took a lot to believe. But you can hear in his poise and with his intelligence that all along this was a young man of great promise, but it had to be found and tapped into. So that was 9th grade. The picture was not particularly promising then. But in just a few short years, with real leadership and support from the team here at Automotive, Joshua's in a great place now, and as he said, on his way to Virginia Union University in the fall, where he'll be studying biology, which means there'll be a host of great career options for him up ahead. Joshua, congratulations. You have a lot to be proud of. The fact is, a lot is happening here. We just sat in with a group of teachers who are working incessantly to improve their own craft, are working with each other to figure out better ways to reach the students who are hardest to reach. It is impossible to sit in one of those rooms and not immediately identify the level of commitment that so many of our teachers have, how much they believe in the work they're doing. And in fact, what was evident in the room was these teachers want to reach the toughest to reach kids. They want to crack the code, if you will, and figure out what's going to get through the kids. It was like sitting amongst a group of detectives looking for clues together to figure out how to solve a case. These teachers are committed, energetic, creative, and they're committed to the future of the school. I asked them what they thought about the future of the school, and every single one of them expressed optimism because they believed in what was going on. They believed in the school leadership. They believed in the investments being made. They believed in their students first and foremost. And it was very interesting to hear them talk about how much potential they saw in their students and how much potential had gone unrealized previously. And they wanted to be the ones to make that breakthrough. So it was very, very encouraging to see. I want to thank our host. Now, Joshua talked about his principal, and any principal who gets that much praise from a student should be proud of her work. That's the ultimate test. I want to say, to hearken back to my roots, the full and proper pronunciation of her name is Caterina La Fergola. Her family is from Naples, just down the street from where my family's from, and she has been doing great, great work here since 2011, driving change in this school incessantly. And Caterina came into a school that she knew was filled with challenges, but she wanted the challenge. We often talk about with our first responders, they walk towards the danger. A lot of our educators walk towards the toughest situations and know they have to fix them, and that is what Caterina has done. I want to thank, of course, Chancellor Farina for her extraordinary leadership. She has been, as is her habit, visiting Renewal schools all over the city, leading from the front, and whenever you go to a school with the Chancellor, you notice her immediately starting to give tips to the principal and the teachers and engage them in how they can improve their craft, and that is because she has the respect of all that she commands because of her extraordinary history. You're also going to hear in a moment from our Executive Superintendent for Renewal Schools, Amy Horowitz, who has hit the ground running. Big job on her hands, 94 schools to turn around. She is showing extraordinary energy and innovation already in her approach. Now, Amy is no stranger to this work. She has dealt with some of our toughest schools and has played a big role in turning some of them around, and now she's going to do it on a much bigger scale. We talked about a few days back in Richmond Hill that Amy's going to use a whole host of strategies, including adopting the CompStat strategy to the work of renewing our struggling schools. Looking at the performance indicators, yes, but really taking that concept and using it as a way to drill down student by student on what each and every student in the school needs to succeed. That's something you saw at Richmond Hill. I talked to a lot of you about the charts on the wall that literally showed how every student was doing. That's something Caterina is working on. As she said, when I questioned her outside the building, she said, immediately, I know every student who is in trouble and needs help, and we have a plan we're working on for each and every student. That is how pinpoint and precise this effort is. And it's something that gives me a lot of hope for the outcome when I see that level of ownership. Principals and teachers believing they have to win this student by student. That is actually how things turn around. We have with us Councilmember Steve Levin. I want to thank him. We're honored to be in your district, and thank you for your support for all we're doing to turn these schools around. You know, in the past, there was the notion that a school that struggled just had to be shut down, period. We just don't agree with that. We don't agree with giving up without a fight. When a school can be turned around, including many schools with proud traditions and a lot of people deeply committed to them, we're going to do everything we know how to do to turn that school around. And Automotive is a great example, where changes in strategy, changes in leadership, changes in investment are already causing profound differences for the better. That's what we believe in. We also believe in accountability. And, you know, there's a big discussion going on right now about mayoral control of education. And I am a strong believer in that system, but I also want to point out how it works in this context. We say, here's a school that can be turned around. We develop a strategy. It's all quite public and transparent. I've said we're going to give the schools up to 3 years. But if we don't see progress, I will shut them down. It's as simple as that. I take personal responsibility for the decision. Now, I am an optimist by nature. I believe when you take great leadership and put proper resources in, amazing things can happen, and they can happen fast. I've seen it happen time and time again. But I'm also clear about the fact that each and every one of these principals and the superintendent and the chancellor are accountable to me for the changes we have to make, and I will ultimately make the decision on whether some of these schools are not making sufficient progress. We've laid out a clear template, a timeline, the kinds of investments we're going to make. Again, depending on the school, it might be new leadership, it might be master teachers. Every one of our renewal schools will get an extra period of instruction. Every one of our renewal schools will be a community school. Every one of our renewal schools will get additional after-school programming. Some will get summer programming. We are taking a host of tools and applying them fast and relentlessly. In the case of Automotive, as is the case of boys and girls here in Brooklyn, we've also come to a clear agreement with the teachers that every teacher is going to be reevaluated for next year. And those who don't fit in this school in the middle of this particular fight to improve the school won't be here. Some will be elsewhere. Some might leave the system. But the ones who are ready to be a part of this change, and I think there are a lot of them, judging from the meeting we just had, the principal's going to take that group of teachers into battle next year and continue this progress. So there's an urgency running through this approach. Everyone feels an urgency about making these changes and make them quickly. One of the things I want to commend the chancellor for, the superintendent, and the principal, no one is talking about anything going slow. Everyone is set on a fast speed because they want these changes to happen right now, including right now reaching some kids who are not on track to graduate and turning that around literally in the next few months. We also heard from the principal at Richmond Hill about that same reality. This is hands-on and, again, student by student. Every school has different needs, and we're applying different tools to each school. So in the case of Automotive, a leadership coach has come in, Corinne Vinal, who has a great track record previously at Sunset Park High School, bringing in additional talent and perspective to help the team here improve their practice all the time. Math and writing coaches are being brought in. This school, again, will be a community school, meaning there'll be additional health programs, there'll be additional counseling, there'll be additional efforts to engage parents. This school is adding more AP classes to have a more rigorous curriculum. They're also recognizing that a lot of our career and technical education needs to be updated, so this school is updating its programs. Each one of these efforts, each one of these efforts makes for a more vibrant school, a school that's on the move and is better able to engage its students. Now, what's happened on Katarina's watch that gives us faith in this turnaround? Let me give you some statistics. More than twice as many students are now in after-school programs than when she came here. Attendance is up to 83%, the highest in a decade here. This is a much safer campus. Joshua talked about the challenges students used to face. If you're not in a safe environment, you can't learn. On Katarina's watch, gang-related activity is down 91%. Violent incidents down 33%, suspensions down 47%, just compared to last year alone. These are the changes that we have to make. Now, I'll just say a couple more things, but one I must say, I've mentioned how strongly I believe in mayoral control education, how much accountability it creates, and how it allows us to do things fast and to have clear lines of authority in that process, something that was absent for years and years in our school system before mayoral control. We also need to note, as we think about Albany, that the time has come for Albany to recognize its obligation, not just to the New York City public schools, but to other school systems around the state that didn't get their fair share of education funding. And as I always say, this is not an idea I created, or education advocates created, or teachers created. This was determined by the New York State Court of Appeals, the highest court in this state, in 2006, which laid out a binding formula for fair funding for schools, under which New York City schools would be getting $2.6 billion more this year if fair funding were applied. That would give us immeasurable possibilities in terms of reaching so many kids that we're not reaching well enough right now. I've said many times, we have 171,000 kids with special needs alone. Those resources would have a transcendent impact on our ability to serve them. We're going to keep fighting for it in Albany. I know everyone rightfully says the battle is tough, but it is something established by the Court of Appeals, and we're never going to turn away from that commitment. We have to keep working until it's fulfilled. I want to end my comments, and I'll just say a couple words in Spanish, but I want to end my comments by saying something that the principal said that really captures, it's the simplest sentence, but it captures the pure governing ethic of everything we're doing with our 94 renewal schools. She said, every student is worth the effort. It is as simple as that. Every student is worth the effort. And everything we're doing is student by student by student. We turn around schools one student at a time, and we do it fast, and we serve a lot of kids simultaneously, but it's about changing the trajectory of each individual student. Joshua is a great example of what happens when you apply the right support and encouragement to a young person. We need that for all of our children. In Spanish, estamos viendo grandes avances en escuelas públicas con problemas gracias al programa de renovación escolar. Los nuevos recursos están ayudando a mejorar el desempeño académico y la asistencia escolar. Seguiremos apoyando a estas escuelas porque cada niño merece una buena educación. With that, let us turn to the expert herself, our school's Chancellor, Carmen Farina.
I think the most important lesson here today is that when you close a school, children like Joshua, men like Joshua, have to start the cycle all over again. When you use the word renewal, it means very simply that you're starting fresh. You're starting fresh in a building. I know this building well. It was under my supervision when I was regional superintendent. And it was beginning to make some progress, but other things happened, and it looks like a fresh new place. So when you have the right leadership, when you have committed teachers, and when you have students who want to succeed and just need that extra push, we know we're in the right place. When you close a school, you put those kids back in other places where they don't have supportive staff, when they have to make all new friends, and many of them just drop out. So I'm really happy to say that in our renewal schools, our commitment is not only urgency, and I don't want to do anything slow, but the commitment that every child there can have a fresh start and succeed. Ahora en español. Es una oportunidad estar aquí hoy y poder decir que nosotros vamos a poner mucho más dinero y muchas más facilidades en las escuelas que tienen dificultades hasta ahora. Y esta escuela es un buen ejemplo de una escuela que con una principal que sabe cómo tratar a los chiquillos, y también donde hay maestras que quieren trabajar aquí y saben lo que están haciendo, que muchos más estudiantes como Joshua van a poder ir al colegio avanzado y poder tener trabajos que les van a pagar buenos sueldos de aquí adelante. I just added in Spanish, they're also going to have great jobs and good paying jobs as they leave here.
Amen. It sounds good in English and Spanish. All right. Thank you very much, Chancellor. And now, hold on, get my list out here. Okay, we're going to the Superintendent. So again, Amy Horowitz has hit the ground running. We're asking a lot of her, but she is absolutely up to the task. And I see already in the schools that I've visited with Amy, this is the third school in the last couple of weeks, she's incessantly, like the Chancellor, pulling the principal aside, going over ideas about how to speed up the renewal, how to coach the teachers. It's a constant effort, leadership, applying leadership principles to speed the process of change. I want to thank her for her tremendous leadership. Superintendent Amy Horowitz.
I'm excited to be overseeing the work we're doing to drive improvement at Automotive High School and at our 93 other renewal schools across the city. With the hard work of our renewal team and Principal LaFragola and her staff at Automotive, we are already seeing progress. Improved safety data, as you heard from Joshua, has made it possible for this school to now focus on instruction. If the safety is not here, it's impossible for teachers to teach and for students to learn. As a former teacher and principal, I can tell you that without a safe environment, it's impossible to proceed with the business of school. Thanks to Principal LaFragola's leadership, this school is no longer what some would refer to as a warehouse for children. Instead, it is a place where students and adults are now safe to learn and are members of a supportive and respectful community. The renewal team started our work here by assessing the weaknesses and strengths at this school and at each of our schools. We found that Automotive was one of the many schools struggling with teaching and assessing writing. Renewal coaches have provided training and strategies for teachers at Automotive to assess student writing for signs of progress and signs of students falling behind. It's not just writing at Automotive. We've been active in bringing cutting-edge math and global studies strategies to improve student instruction in these subjects where students have been struggling. After just one semester, we're already seeing progress across renewal schools in leading indicators of school performance, including credit accumulation, attendance, and parent engagement. Automotive is also a great example of the improved leadership practice, improved teacher practice that the mayor talked about, and increased student and family engagement that we're seeing at renewal schools across the city. Principal LaFragola has focused on motivating students through a supportive school culture. With the help of their community-based organizations, Good Shepherd, and counseling in schools, Automotive is driving up attendance by making telephone calls to families every time a student is absent or late. They're also incentivizing attendance with weekly competitions and celebrating student improvement and achievement. Automotive, as Joshua said, is also engaging its students through its career and technical education programs, sports teams, and after-school programs, including a chess program. While I'm encouraged by the progress I'm seeing, we are only at the beginning. We are turning around our renewal schools, driving improvement in and out of the classroom. And the mayor, the chancellor, and I, along with all of our principals and our teachers, will be held accountable for the success of this program. We are building data systems similar to CompStat to track progress and information, to inform our work with schools, and to help teachers learn about their own practice, as the mayor saw downstairs in the inquiry team meeting. Together, we will keep working to ensure that our students are coming to school, that they're accumulating credits, and that they're on the path to college and career, and that once they get there, they stay there and they thrive there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now I'd like to bring up the council member who represents this district, who's been a strong supporter of the changes that we're making to improve our schools. I want to thank him for that. Council member Steve Levin.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio. I want to start out by thanking Joshua and Principal Lafergola for having us here today, and to acknowledge what the administration and the Department of Education is doing here. Automotive High School has long been a pillar of the Greenpoint Williamsburg community. It has long been a pillar of our CTE system. And what this administration is doing is showing that we need to invest in those pillars. We need to invest in our schools. When they're facing challenges, instead of turning a blind eye to them or writing them off, this administration is showing that it cares. And it demands rigorous standards, but couples that with that investment, because that's how we're going to be able to succeed. On these renewal schools, that will not happen unless there is that commitment, that investment, the resources that are necessary from the entire Department of Education. And this has become a priority of this administration. We welcome it. I look at what the mission of this school is, which is working within the automotive industry. And that's an industry that is thriving here in this country. It's a 21st century industry, and we did that by investing in that industry, by demanding accountability, but also having faith in the industry as a 21st century endeavor. And that's what we have to do here at Automotive High School, and that's what we're doing. So I want to thank the mayor and the chancellor, superintendent, principal, and all the students for having faith in this school and in our kids to succeed. Thank you.
One last point before we take questions. We'll take on-topic followed by off-topic. The career and technical education, so CTE, just so everyone's on the same page, career and technical education. Chancellor and I have been talking about this for a long time. We have to profoundly update our approach to career and technical education to align it to the 21st century economy, to align it to where the jobs are in this city and beyond. That work is happening at Automotive as they're updating their programs. But really, we care deeply that every one of our students, when they leave our school system, has a path forward. For many, it will be college. For many others, it will be a career. So long as they are properly prepared for either, it is a success. But not preparing them for a clear path means we're not getting where we need to be. And that work is happening every day here as part of the renewal process. With that, let's take on-topic questions. On-topic. On topic, yes.
I just wondered if I could ask Joshua, was there a single moment when you came to understand that you were on the wrong path and decided to switch gears, so to speak, in this school?
Yes, there was a few moments that I've had where I felt like I needed to change my ways, but I didn't do it on my own. The talks from the principals, the teachers, and the deans here helped me the whole way through.
Was there one moment? Did I hear that?
Was there a time when a light bulb went off and you said, wait a minute?
A dean, Mr. Bradley, who is no longer here with us, he sat down with me one day. I was having trouble like outside and inside of the school, and he said some things to me that it got to me. Like, it touched me. So I didn't want to disappoint my mom. I didn't want to disappoint anyone here at the building. So at that moment, I felt like I should have changed. And it didn't happen overnight. It took me a few months. It took more than one talk. And I just kept going.
You ever think about coming back as a teacher?
As a teacher, maybe.
Tell them what you want to do.
I would like to come back. It's a bicycle repair shop inside the school. I would love to come back and work on the bikes with students.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Joshua. I do want to, before we go on with on-topic questions, I skipped my own order here. My apologies, so I do want you to hear from the principal who's done so much over these last few years to turn this school around, Principal Caterina Lafergola. I'm going to get that in every chance I get.
Grazie. So I am Caterina Lafergola, and I'd like to share a little bit of information about our school with you. So welcome, first, Mayor de Blasio and Chancellor Farina and members of the press. I'm honored to welcome you to Automotive High School, the best-kept secret on Bedford Avenue. I have been an educator for the past 15 years and have had the good fortune of being the principal at Automotive for the last 4 years. I left industry in 2000 because I knew that my passion resided not in numbers, but in supporting young people and uncovering the power of words. I was an English teacher. The high school renewal is important because the high school renewal program is important because it offers schools that have been struggling the opportunity to fortify the work that they've been doing with actionable feedback from school leaders that have experience in turning around schools. What high school renewal offers me as a school leader is support and a fresh set of eyes that can help me look at the work that my team and I are doing from a different perspective. Ultimately, the shift in perspective helps us to then refine what is working and rethink our approach to what isn't. Automotive High School is expanding our CTE offerings through the integration of an engineering program whose focus will be to offer an added dimension to our automotive program and underscore the STEM component of our traditional CTE program. In addition, we have integrated a law enforcement academy for students interested in pursuing a career in law. Our work with the High School Renewal Initiative has afforded us the opportunity to work with Nell Scharf, who has created a hybrid of Judith Hochman's work in the Writing is Thinking Through Strategic Inquiry, or as we call it here at Auto, WITSI, approach to improving student outcomes. This work allows our 9th grade team, and that's the team that is really the fulcrum. The 9th grade is the most important grade because that's where we lose them. The opportunity to drill down into student work to uncover areas for growth that will have far-reaching impact on student outcomes across the curriculum. In addition to our WITSI work, with Superintendent Horowitz and her team has afforded us the opportunity to support our math teachers through Metamorphosis Math, an approach that offers teachers tools to create entry points for students into Common Core learning standards and instructional shifts in mathematics. The most profound support, however, has taken the form of weekly coaching that includes a cycle of observation that uses a modified Santoyo method and includes planning, implementing, reflecting, and revising. Our primary focus for the first 2 years of my administration has been shifting the culture and tone of the building by taking a restorative approach to student discipline, coupled with empowering students to advocate for themselves and offering them outlets for their non-academic interests. You're never going to turn a school around unless you listen to every single student. It's the kids that turn schools around, not the adults. The fruits of this work has resulted in improved student outcomes. A few, but not all, of the indicators of growth include an approximately 80% attendance rate, which is the highest that it has been in the last decade, and credit accumulation, which has improved as evidenced by a 9% increase in 9th grade, 23% increase in 10th grade, and 50% increase in 11th grade. The most profound change is that Automotive High School was removed from the impact list where it resided for well over a decade. And for those of you who don't know what that is, Automotive High School was one of the most dangerous schools in New York City for well over a decade. I am proud to say in the first year of our administration, we were taken off that list. To date, our principal suspensions have decreased by 60%, and superintendent suspensions have decreased by 33% when compared to 2013-14. There is no doubt in my mind that Automotive High School will continue its trajectory of success, given the support of Mayor de Blasio, Chancellor Farina, Superintendent Horowitz, and Team Good. I thank you wholeheartedly on behalf of the students and faculty of Automotive High School.
Well done. Okay, continuing on topic. Do I see? Yes.
2 questions. One, do you believe that the governor's stance on mayoral control, calling it an experiment, requesting that it be renewed just for 3 years, raises questions about whether or not he's a true reformer on education? And 2, what is your position on the possibility of the legislature creating a commission to look at teacher evaluation?
I would give you a simple answer. Mayoral control works. The jury came back a long time ago. There's extraordinary support here in this city across the spectrum, across the partisan spectrum, amongst business and labor. There is a consensus in a city that doesn't reach consensus that often. There's a consensus that mayoral control is a fundamental way to reform education and improve education. We have over a decade of evidence. It's very, very simple. There's no debate here. It's time for Albany to renew mayoral control. Now, I remind you that you could look at the alternative of where we came from. And where we came from was a dysfunctional school system that lacked leadership and accountability, that was very different depending on which school district you were in, so it lacked fairness and equality, and tragically in many school districts was rife with corruption. The previous governing system was filled with corruption. So when you look at where we came from and then you look at where we are today, the kinds of changes that the principal just described were possible under a mayoral control system because you can put in leadership, hold them accountable. Literally, the accountability goes right up to the top. Every piece of the equation has to fit together. The fact that we're acting on these 94 renewal schools simultaneously with a program that affects all of them simultaneously would have been impossible under the previous system. We never would have been able to implement full-day pre-K in the kind of time frame we've done it here under the previous system. So to me, it's obvious that mayoral control works and it's a profound reform. Albany should just act on it now. It's as simple as that. They should simply address it now so we can continue the work of reforming our schools.
So what do you make of the governor's stance and the possibility that it might not be settled as part of the...
I don't deal with hypotheticals. My response is very simple. There's still time on the clock before the budget's due. Let's go and resolve this. I think there's a lot of voices in Albany to understand that mayoral control is a necessary reform if we're going to keep moving our schools forward. They have a chance to do something about it. Let's renew mayoral control now.
The second question on the teacher
Please.
ballot commission.
Say again?
The second question on the possible creation of a commission.
It's the same answer. It's, again, the jury came back. Mayoral control obviously works. So it should be acted on now. In other words, why would we want to delay making a decision that's self-evident? We should renew mayoral control right now, and we should do it as quickly as possible. I don't think there's a reason for an intermediary step.
So I know automotive was in special category because they'd been kind of having trouble for a while, and so it got a lot of attention early on. For the schools in the renewal program that weren't in that category, that started a little bit later, what kind of gains are you expecting this year? Are there certain categories that you're looking at, like attendance or suspensions?
Well, we talked about this at Richmond Hill, and the Chancellor and the Superintendent can speak to this, but we're expecting change to begin immediately in areas like attendance and credit accumulation. But again, a lot of the pieces of the renewal program will really hit hard in September. So you're going to see a big build out in September in terms of them being community schools, having after-school capacity, et cetera. But, the change begins immediately, and then resources keep flowing in. Do you want to add?
I would say the major changes that we can see right now, I was in 2 of the schools yesterday, is you're going to see much more focus on attendance and a real concentrated effort, and when attendance is not good, what is done about it. Much more concentrated effort on parent engagement. What does it look like? What does it mean? How do parents get more involved in being instructed ways that they can help their kids at home? And I'd say the biggest change, certainly in elementary and even in middle schools, is a much more concentrated effort on teacher professional development. All the teachers in renewal schools are undergoing professional development. The grant that we just got from General Electric, a lot of that money for STEM is going to be going to renewal schools. So we anticipate the teachers will have more tools to be able to work with students who are struggling.
We're also working, like I've said before, each school is being taken as an individual. So we're working with a group of schools that have had issues with retaining staff. And so we've looked at that data and are piloting a group of schools to work on teacher retention. And those schools will be getting intensive support. So that information is being communicated to schools this week. And throughout all of the renewal schools, as Chancellor Farina said, throughout elementary, middle, and high school, there is an intense effort on teacher professional development, on leadership coaching. So while we don't necessarily see the fruits of that labor immediately, those will be some of the, that will have the impact on the lagging indicators. And then we also have Borough Center regional directors that have been named, that are working on putting together regional support centers that will work in collaboration with superintendents to further support the schools and provide them with information and hands-on help in creating budgets that work for the schools to meet students' needs, in assisting with professional development, along with our superintendents and their teams.
Let me just add, I've been in, as I said, 3 renewal schools in the last 2 weeks or so, and part of the point here is we are sending a message up and down the line of accountability. I am constantly asking the Chancellor and the Superintendent what's going on in these schools. They are turning around and pushing the principals are pushing the teachers. Everyone is in a line of authority that's making the point clear we need improvement, we need it now. In the previous approach, when there was a default position of closing a school, even if there had not been investments made, it didn't exactly incentivize people to keep fighting. If you thought you were on the chopping block and that help wasn't coming or you weren't being held to a higher standard, in many cases it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is the exact opposite. Everyone is being told you can and will succeed, and we're going to provide a lot of focus, a lot of resources, a lot of support. But we're also going to be demanding of you results constantly. And that's where a CompStat-style system is very, very helpful. Constantly look at what's going on in each school. And then that further encourages the principals to deepen their way of analyzing the work of literally each and every student to keep pushing the change from the student level. I think Principal Lafergola is right that this is absolutely something you win student by student. And so if you think about it, the power of this model is from the mayor on down, the message goes, keep helping and moving each student, supporting each student. And that adds up to a real urgency that we believe can yield immediate changes. We've shown it now in these 3 schools, things happening very differently even than compared to months ago. And it also sets the stage for much bigger changes as we go into September. Yeah.
I wondered who coined the term renewal schools, and I'm hoping I can get a name.
I would love to know that.
So would I.
Do you remember who coined it? Was it Tony? It may be Tony Shorus. All right. We're nominating First Deputy Mayor Tony Shorus. It may well be him. We're going to get you a firm answer as soon as we determine what it was.
Follow up on Michael's question. I was hoping to also hear from the Chancellor. As Michael said, the governor has called mayoral control an experiment. He's not willing to make it permanent. You've recently rolled out a ton of support for it from all sides of the aisle. What do you think it specifically says about the governor and his politics that he's not willing to go along with this, since it has, so much widespread support?
Before I will always encourage the Chancellor's voice, but let me offer an observation first.
You can answer this one.
Either way, I'll be happy to serve. Look, this really shouldn't be about politics. That's what I'm saying. There's a consensus here that is rare in public policy. And look at the editorial boards have weighed in. Look at the business leaders who have weighed in. Folks who often don't agree with each other, let alone agree with everything that my administration does, but everyone's united on this point. This is the difference maker. This is the crucial reform. Without mayoral control, so many other things can't happen. It is proven. I think if something has been proven in the biggest school system in the country for over a decade, that's not an experiment. That's a fact. That's a proven fact, and something that has this extraordinary bipartisan consensus here in the city and all over the state. It should transcend politics. So I just think this is not a political question. This is a question of how we keep improving our schools, and Albany has a chance to act on that right now. Do you want to add?
By virtue of the fact that I have 50 years in education, I have seen every single way of governing schools. Decentralized, centralized, school boards, regional. I've done it all. And the reality is I would never have taken this job at this time if there wasn't mayoral control, because I really need to be able to have a partner who makes decisions with us that then gives me the right to get it done. In the old days as a superintendent, you have to go through many layers. You have to follow certain rules. Sometimes the rules were good, but also it led to a lot of inequity. And, we worked together, school board, superintendent, and I will tell you that we didn't always agree on things, but the reality is it also meant that a lot of things didn't happen in an orderly way. And it also meant that although District 15 that we were part of worked very well compared to the rest of the city, when I inherited other districts within my region, I saw unbelievable inequities. I saw 50% of principals chosen because of patronage. I saw people who were related to other people. There was one school board in the city where every member of the school board had someone who was either a principal or an assistant principal. So we can't go back to those days. We can't go back. We're not only, and you're in a place now, we're saying one of the things in renewal schools, if it's not the right leader, well, we're going to make sure it's a different leader. We would not have been able to do that under any of the other systems. So I do believe in this mayoral control, and I do believe that it's better for kids. It's not about better for the mayor or better for the governor, but it is better for kids.
I want to give two quick examples on this point. The Chancellor just really identified the core of the matter. The Chancellor comes in and says, here's an approach on renewal schools that will turn these schools around. We debate it, we evaluate it, and then when we say go, it means the entire weight of the mayoralty and the school system supports that effort. There's nothing standing in the way of action. That's why this effort is moving so quickly. Also, pre-K, from the day the funding was voted until the day school opened, 5 months to add 33,000 full-day pre-K seats. Inconceivable in the previous model with community school boards. The number of people in this city who are thankful that their kids got pre-K or the kids are going to get it next year. I constantly meet people who say thank you for pre-K, thank you for after school, or in these schools that we're turning around. There's so much appreciation because they're finally seeing the education system respond to them quickly. That was not true a few years ago in this town. And these changes are urgent, and the only way you can make change, the only way you can reform schools is through mayoral control of education. Dave.
Earlier today I talked with some charter school advocates who mentioned the 3-year timeline that you talked about earlier. And they say this is unfair to kids, that they can't wait 3 years. So while you may be seeing some improvement in things like suspensions and safety, you're not seeing the academic progress quickly enough, and that these kids can't wait 3 years. What's your response?
I think that's a misexplanation of the reality. And it's, look, that in effect is a partisan statement. I understand some people have a very different view of how our school system should be organized. The Chancellor and I believe fundamentally in our traditional public schools that educate the vast majority of our kids and always will. We want to strengthen our traditional public schools. Of course, we're going to work with our charter schools as well. We also work with our religious schools. But in the end, we're talking about saving a school that has so much to offer and not leaving a generation of kids in the lurch, because that's what happened. There's plenty of evidence of what happened when schools were closed, phased out over years. The kids in those phased-out years were treated very poorly in many cases and did not get the best educational opportunities. When we say up to 3 years to turn around, that doesn't mean anything standing still, because I've said very publicly, if I don't see constant progress, I can close a school before that. But I think 3 years to get fully up to speed is fair because we're constantly investing. Remember, you didn't see this investment model in the past. The closest thing we had was the Chancellor's District, which had some of the characteristics of what we're doing here, but not all of them by any stretch of the imagination. You have mayoral control of education. Obviously, the Chancellor's District didn't have that advantage. You have the combined impact of community school effort, additional after-school, additional period of instruction, where needed, new leadership, new master teachers. This is a huge concentration of investment and change in a school. That's why it yields results starting immediately. So for those who criticize, maybe they're criticizing something they know from the past, but if they're actually looking at the model we're using now, it causes urgent change right now. Please.
Can you speak to exactly what you think is wrong with Governor Cuomo's alternative plan to allow the states to come in and take over some of these troubled schools?
I think the bottom line here is when the mayoral control system, and again, I can't speak for other parts of the state that have other systems. I'm speaking for a mayoral control system where there's clear lines of accountability and the ability to act on these schools immediately. I think anything that clouds those lines is unhelpful. I don't think, with all due respect to folks who work in Albany, I don't think that bureaucrats 150 miles away are going to do a better job of solving our problems than our own chancellor and our own principals and teachers will do. I think here we have absolute and total accountability. I've said it. I think, people would have a right to say, where are the lines of authority? Well, under mayoral control, they're extremely clear. That may not be so true in other systems, but here they're extremely clear. What's the timeline? The timeline is no more than 3 years, and I reserve my right to close schools earlier if I'm not satisfied. What's the methodology? We have a renewal school plan that lays out exactly what we're spending, how we're going to go about it, what tools we're using. We have a leadership team. We have a set number of schools. It's so specific and clear that there's absolute accountability. So I think state interference in that will only slow down the changes that we need to make.
Short of closing the schools, one of the things you actually don't have flexibility with is staffing. Automotive and Boys and Girls have these unusual agreements with the unions where all the teachers and principals have reapplied for their jobs or will be reapplying for their jobs. How important is that at those schools? And if it is important, will that be a problem at all of the other schools? Because ultimately that's sort of what school closure was in the past, was a way of making all the teachers have to reapply for jobs in the new school that was formed in that building.
Well, a fair analysis, and the problem is the new school that was formed in that building may or may not have been a good model, and again, a lot of kids got left in the lurch during the transition. So what we say here is from the beginning, we're accounting for the kind of teams we need to turn around a school. So again, in some cases it's going to be a new principal. I think already 7 principals have been replaced. In some cases it's going to be bringing in master teachers. It's different models for different schools. But what I think is crucial to recognize here is I really believe that this is sort of what the missing link in a lot of the education debate. Most teachers are here for the right reason. Most teachers can do a lot better if they're given training and additional support and good leadership. That's the sort of core of so much what we're trying to do system-wide. That is very, very clear in the teacher contract, very clear in the additional teacher training efforts being made in these schools. So start with the tools you have. A lot of teachers who are committed and can be made better. There's a certain number of folks who should not be teaching. As we've said recently, 291 of them are no longer teaching because of concerted efforts since April to move them out, and that will continue. So these 2 schools, because of their particular circumstance, we took an additional step with the union of agreeing to reset the whole teaching group and giving the principals the opportunity to figure out who really fit the model they were using. But even short of such a large solution, if you will, we've found the ability to make the moves we need to make, whether it's a principal change or teacher changes, through other methodologies as well. And much more importantly, sort of the horse before the cart, is strengthening the teachers we have who do belong in these schools, who are ready to fight, adding to them additional strong teachers, master teachers, model teachers, who want to go to the front line of this and bring their particular skill. It's a totally different understanding of how you deal with the problem than what existed before, but we're already seeing how powerful this model can be. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah. One of the things is that principals still have within their purview the ability to remove ineffective teachers, and we're working very strongly on that in schools, where one of the things that I do when I visit a school, one of the first things I ask a principal is, show me an exemplary classroom and show me a teacher you're concerned about. And we're really encouraging not just principals in renewal schools, this is across the city. If we're going to raise the level of education so more people want to come into education, we have to make it a profession that says only the best need apply. So that is how we're dealing with everything. And I just want to correct one number that the mayor just said, because he'll be very proud of you. Haven't heard it yet. We're up to 309 teachers.
Update.
Update. You weren't going to have it in an hour, but you get it ahead of time. So we're making a real concentrated effort on making sure that only the best be teachers in our schools.
And I appreciate that. So first of all, thank you for the update. 309 folks who should be in a different profession to help to a different profession. But only the best need apply is the point. The emphasis on incessantly improving the quality of the teacher core. That's how you get to the core of the changes we have to make. And I think the message has gone out very clearly. In effect, we're upping everyone's game here. The level of demand is rising all the time. I think the message to everyone in the profession is, get ready to play harder, get ready to reach a higher standard. If you don't want to do that, we'll help you move on to something else. But if you're ready to go to a more rigorous place, which is where the school system has to go, we will support you with the best leadership, with lots of training, with lots of support. But we're not going to go halfway here. We're taking the whole system to a higher level of achievement. Marcia? Okay, staying on this, let's just finish on topic in the back.
Where the hiring process is, and it would be great to hear from Principal Lafergola about like what criteria she would like to see in rehiring.
You mean our hiring for next year for teachers? Come on.
Just a second question. I came from the City Council.
Let's do this one first.
Okay.
So currently, we're in the process of negotiating collaboratively with the United Federation of Teachers and the Council of Supervisors and Administrators to determine what the criteria will be for the hiring process so that it is equitable for all applicants. What I'd like to see is people who espouse the same theory as the team, as my team, which is what's best for kids. Our children, specifically children in schools that have struggles, deserve the same level of education as schools that have been highly successful. Our students need advocacy, and that's probably the biggest difference between the students in our schools and the students in other schools is the lack of advocacy, and it is our moral imperative to provide that advocacy through our teaching and our administrative staff.
I am going to add to what Katerina has said. So in our collaboration with the UFT and the CSA in this hiring process, everyone at the table, so this is unusual, right? But everyone at the table, the DOE, the CSA, and the UFT, all realize the urgency of this work and the need to have the best and the most qualified teachers that are committed to doing this work at our schools that have been struggling. And so I'm confident that the collaborative process, the same way it yielded rigorous criteria for principal hiring, will yield very rigorous criteria for teacher hiring and will allow us to have the most effective teachers at our schools.
And I want to add that in the past, if you were a struggling school, it's the teachers who couldn't get jobs anywhere who ended up there, or it's teachers who someone else didn't want and they say, why don't you go work there? We're turning this totally around. We're saying only the best need apply. And because we're raising the bar and someone who now will get a job here can say, I was chosen specifically because I have criteria that other people don't have, I think is a really, really important part of this initiative.
That's a very powerful point. I want to just add two things. So one, that point that a teacher that no principal believes they can use effectively, we're going to help out of the school system. That's as simple as that, and that is a sea change from the past. In the past, there was a go-along, get-along reality that even someone who shouldn't be in the profession was tolerated. We're not going to tolerate that. Second, there's a bigger thing going on here which will reveal itself in the coming months that, you know, around the world you see some very powerful examples of management and labor working together, and some of them very well documented, different approaches that have been used to kind of break through some of the historical problems and treat the situation as one where everyone has a common goal of improving the work. That's what's happening. That's what the Chancellor, the Superintendent, and the Principal are describing, a situation where we take away some of the conflict of the past. We say, okay, it's everyone's business to turn the school around. How are we going to do that? Those who don't want to participate don't need to be a part of the system anymore. But people who really do want to participate in making that change, we're going to welcome them, and it's going to be collaborative, and it's not going to be conflictual. The absence of conflict is what led to a contract with the teachers union filled with innovation. 200 schools where we're going to suspend UFT work rules and DOE rules, the ability to use severance to help people out of the profession who should not be in the profession, much greater focus on teacher interaction with parents, much more time being devoted to teacher training. All of that came out of an atmosphere of collaboration. So I think what's being under-discussed here is how a paradigm shift has led to a lot of very practical outcomes. The sort of armed camps of the reality of a few years ago didn't yield a lot of reform. We believe reform comes from a collaborative system. What was your second question?
It was about a budget question. The City Council put out a briefing that showed that the city hadn't set aside any money for the renewal schools for the upcoming fiscal year or any year beyond that. And I wasn't sure why that was.
Because we have a budget coming out in April. Executive budget's coming out.
But in preliminary budgets that we put out in February, you obviously plan for not only fiscal year 2016.
No, well, let me clarify. We do in the preliminary budget some things. Other things are still being worked on and perfected for April. This is true every single year. The preliminary budget is clearly not the final say on what we're going to bat with for the end of the budget process. A lot is not fine-tuned until late April when we come out with the executives. So that's true every year.
I was just wondering why that wasn't yet.
Because, again, a lot of different pieces we work on to perfect. We might want to add some additional elements to them. You know, it's just a constant process. And I think the simple way to say is this. In the preliminary, everything we're 100% sure is ready and fully baked in time for the preliminary in February goes out in February. The other things we're still working on go out in April. So it's an ongoing process. On topic, last call, on topic first. On topic going, student journalist.
Hi, my name is Ryan. I'm the Supervisor President here at Automotive High School. I was just wondering, how would the students be involved in the process of turning our school to community high school?
Excellent. So yes, I'm going to bring the principal up. I really want to commend the principal for, excuse me, for her focus on the role of students in changing their own school, in taking some responsibility and ownership for the changes they have to make to create a better environment for everyone. I think that's crucial. Why don't you talk about some of the ways you do that?
So, Ryan, your question's about how students are going to be involved in making our school a community school. So I guess I want you to go back to your first year here and think about the cafeteria issue. Do you remember that? No, do you remember that vaguely? The situation where the students came to me and initially we thought that they were complaining about the school food because that's just what kids do. They complain about the school food. But then I said, I need proof. I need to see what you're talking about. And I would have students, and this is the God's honest truth, every lunch period come up with food that was still frozen, food that was moldy, food that was just, I wouldn't feed it to my pet. And so we sat down in student government and we said, how can we fix the problem? And we came up with a bunch of different ideas, and one of them utilized the school garden that we have in front of our building and integrated fresh fruits and vegetables, and we worked with the cafeteria staff, and we got the people outside of the building from the school nutrition to come and speak to the students. They did a tasting for the students so that they would change the menu. So basically, how we're going to change our school to a community school, Ryan, is collaboratively in the same way that we're going to change all of the schools that are being impacted by community schools. It's through conversation that is anchored in evidence and not on hearsay and not on speculation. And it is coming to the table with solutions and not bringing more problems, and being willing to listen and exchange ideas for a common good. So, to my knowledge, if I had my druthers, that's how it would look, but I don't know what the bigger plan is yet. So.
I think it'll look like that. Okay, last call on topic. Going once, going twice. You're coming over, last call, good, go ahead.
So this has to do with John Dewey High School, where there's an ongoing investigation into grade fixing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've just come from a school where I talked to teachers who cooperated with the Department of Education investigators. And they say, when they were questioned, they produced volumes of evidence to show or prove what they were saying. This is just some of it, but they say that the Department of Education investigators refused to take the documents. So my question to you is,
please.
I have three questions.
All right, well, let's do one at a time. Go ahead.
I mean, they're pretty simple. One,
Okay.
why would they refuse to take the teachers' documents? Number two, do you think the refusal could cast doubt on the seriousness of the investigation? And number three, are you troubled by the teachers' allegations?
I don't assume because some teachers talk to you that that's the whole truth. I believe very, very strongly in the quality of our investigations unit. I think all of you have reported for years on different investigations that have been undertaken with the Department of Education very aggressively. I have absolute faith in the integrity of that unit. So I don't know what these individual teachers said to you, but my view is that professional group, again, with all due respect, that's one group who told you one story. I have faith that our investigators have very high standards and will get any and all evidence because we take the charges very serious. Again, you are offering information I would call hearsay. I am deeply troubled. Marsha, I'm not going to go back and forth with you. So if you want to have an answer, we'll have an answer. Otherwise, I'll call on someone else. Okay? What do you want? Thank you. We are deeply troubled by any allegation of grade fixing or test fixing. We take it very, very seriously. I am a public school parent. I would not tolerate as a parent knowing that anyone in my school that my kid goes to was doing such a thing. I also have absolute faith in the Chancellor and the people who do the investigations that they will thoroughly investigate. Many times what you hear in the first instance is not what actually proves to be the truth. So there's a full investigation going on, and when we have the results, we'll make them public. Please. We said what we need to say. Go ahead. Marcia, let's let other people go.
Does it concern you at all that the person you selected to be the new NYCHA general manager was forced to resign apparently from his job in Philadelphia over allegations of an affair with a subordinate and possibly giving that person a job improperly?
He is extraordinarily experienced, having led some of the biggest public housing authorities in the country, and very effectively. It's very hard to run a public housing authority in an age of constantly diminishing resources, and Mike Kelly has done that very well. So I have a lot of faith in his skill and what he brings to the table. He made a mistake in Philly. There's no two ways about it. He owned up to it. He was reprimanded for it. There was a full investigation. The investigation proved that there have been no negative outcomes from the mistake he made in terms of how the work was done. So human beings make mistakes, but if they own up to it, and if they don't do anything that harms the work, I think it's right to give someone another chance. But in terms of the quality and experience he brings, it's unparalleled in the nation, and I think he's going to help us continue to make NYCHA a better place.
You and former Mayor Giuliani have certainly been critical of each other on any number of occasions. But your recent joint letter with Mayor Giuliani, has that and your 15 months in office given any different tint or a change in the relationship between you two and your view of his time as a mayor?
No, I think there's going to be times when we agree, and when we do, I'm perfectly comfortable saying when I agree with him, and I appreciate when he says he agrees with me, and when we think something's in the larger interests of the city. This is something you'll remember. Mayor Giuliani very much wanted mayoral control of schools and thought it would be transcendent. It proved to be transcendent, and I commend Mayor Bloomberg for having achieved it. I think one thing that's true is former mayors and current mayors often can see some of these situations similarly. But on a question of sort of broader philosophy, no. Mayor Giuliani and I often disagree, but I do appreciate his support on this issue.
Do you with any regularity?
No. From time to time, but not regularly.
Another question about the NYCHA general manager.
Yes.
The head of your EDC is leaving, Bloomberg appointee. The head of NYCHA, general manager, is leaving for a new guy. Are you cleaning house of the remaining Bloomberg folks?
No, each situation is individual. One thing I think is abundantly clear is that in the most senior positions, there were very, very few holdovers. I think in the case of Kyle Kimball at EDC, he did a great job. In the case of Cecil House at NYCHA, he did a great job. Very comfortable with the work they did. I had a great working relationship. Each made their own decisions. Both had come from the private sector. And I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to it. But both served very well, both really good public servants, and it was just a moment where they made a personal decision.
Just a quick follow-up. Are there any other Bloomberg folks who are left in your district?
There are a few. I mean, at the highest level, there are a handful, and obviously there's some other at middle levels. Sally?
Mayor, do you share the concerns that have been raised recently about the proposed plastic bag tax proposal, that it would have a disparate impact on low-income communities?
Look, I think the underlying goal is a good one, that there is an environmental problem and a sanitation problem created by these plastic bags, and we have to find a way to wean ourselves off of them. There's more than one way to do that. So I haven't weighed in yet because we're still evaluating if the proposal that's been put forward is both effective and fair, and I think there are legitimate concerns. The goal is the right goal. We'll soon be able to say if we think it's that one or a different strategy that's the most effective.
Mr. Mayor, yesterday, Councilmember Antonio Reynoso took part in the protest in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, regarding the two 40-year-old daycare facilities. What do you think about that? Are you ignoring his plea? Do you think the city will get involved?
We don't ignore anyone's plea. Obviously, I spent a lot of years working on the question of daycare when I was chairman of the General Welfare Committee. I don't know all the details of the two cases that he was protesting, but the broader situation, the challenge we're facing is ever-rising rents. and we have to pay market rate, for rents of some of these facilities. We're trying to resolve, in constant negotiation with landlords, ways to, attain a long-term positive outcome for these daycare facilities. I believe in them fundamentally. So, no, his concerns are not falling on deaf ears. Okay? It's not her range, her purview, because it's Administration for Children's Services. So, we good? Okay, thanks, everyone.
Like in the same higher echelon.